Kanba is dangling off a second-story ledge by a prayer and a thin nylon rope. He's risking life and limb for a glimpse into the girls' locker room, but his buddy is more worried about the physics than the perversion. Just in case, I made a triple knot. But seriously, don't fall and die. Kanba doesn't care about the drop. He's got a mission. The whole school building is a fortress, and Kanba is currently its least skilled ninja. He grips the windowsill with white-knuckled desperation, his face inches from the glass. On the other end of the line, his co-conspirators are waiting for the payload. Don't hang up, okay? He's positioned the phone, the lens peeking over the edge like a perverted periscope. Inside, Aota-san is just living her life, oblivious to the high-altitude creep show outside. Aota-san, do you have some deo spray? She asks, reaching for a bottle. Meanwhile, Kanba is losing his grip on reality in the wall. The boys on the ground are vibrating with anticipation, staring at the blurry screen. Do we have visuals? They're counting on him, and Kanba's arms are starting to scream. The boys are placing bets on colors, pink, white, black, hurrying Kanba to get the shot. But the screen doesn't show Aota-san. It shows a wall of fabric in a familiar bob cut. The view is completely hidden by Fujiyama-san. The boys' dreams crumble instantly as they realize who's standing in the way. That damn giant. Then, the world goes quiet. Through the lens, the light catches Fujiyama mid-motion, her shirt pulled up, exposing a strength and a softness Kanba wasn't prepared for. It's not the shot he was looking for, but it's the one that stops his heart. Just a sharp, staccato whoo before the reality of his situation catches up. Panic hits. The rope slips. Kanba is a blur of limbs and bad decisions as he tumbles backward. The boys watch their hero become a falling object. Fujiyama turns, sensing something at the window, but all she finds is an empty ledge and the distant sound of a body hitting the bushes. A massive bump echoes through the schoolyard. Kanba is seeing stars, and not the romantic kind. While he's nursing a bruised ego in the dirt, the school newspaper is busy immortalizing the girl who just ruined his life. There she is, Fujiyama-san, the ace, standing a full 181 centimeters tall. Kanba is a mess of bandages and regret in the infirmary. The news is everywhere. The girls' team is the pride of the school while the boys' team was eliminated after one game. It's a humiliating contrast. "Gimme that newspaper," he grumbles, trying to hide the fact that he's looking for her name. Then the door slides open and the hype becomes real. Fujiyama-san looms over him, her presence filling the room more than the paper she's featured in. She's not just a headline anymore, she's a physical force, looking down at the boy who used to be her equal in the sandbox. She doesn't offer sympathy. She offers a threat. She leans in, her shadow swallowing him whole. "Your mom is the sky tree," she taunts, before turning her focus to his accomplice. "Take off the glasses. You're next." It's silent pressure, the kind that makes your skin crawl and your pulse jump. Just as quickly as she arrived, the intimidation vanishes into a casual shrug. "Hey, have you seen the nurse?" she asks, her eyes wandering. When they say no, she just drifts back toward the door. She's a storm that just decided to move on, leaving Kanba staring at the back of her head. He watches her go, the number 12 on her jersey burned into his retinas. He's supposed to be annoyed. He's supposed to be plotting his next move. But he just looks tired, and strangely he can't look away. Back in the classroom, Saken is trying to hold court, but the boys are in their own world. She's the popular, baby-faced teacher, but today she's just background noise. "Listen properly to the teacher," she chirps, but Kanba is busy grinding a circle into his desk with a compass, lost in thought. He thinks about Aota-san, the beautiful, untouchable captain every boy dreams of. "I would have been a hero amongst the guys if I'd gotten a shot of her in underwear," he thinks, but he didn't. He got Fujiyama, and for some reason the hero status doesn't feel like the prize anymore. His pencil stops moving. The classroom noise fades into a dull hum. That single frame is scorched into his memory. It's not the perverted victory he wanted. It's the way she looked in that split second, strong, real, and completely unaware of him. He's flushing, and it's not from the heat. Fujiyama is out cold at her desk, her big body taking up every inch of space. The teacher's yelling, "Do you think I'm so senile that I wouldn't notice?" But she's dead to the world. Later, as the sun begins to dip, the walk home starts. The distance between them feels physical. "Yeah, I've known her since kindergarten," Kanba admits. They were close once, before middle school, and the growth spurts drove a wedge between them. Now there are rumors she's not even a girl. Actually, there's a rumor that she's actually a guy cross-dressing. Kanba listens to the insults, but he doesn't join in. The walk home is interrupted by a cold spike of dread. Kanba pats his pockets. Nothing. Aw shit. I lost my cell. He looks back toward the school, then at Fujiyama walking ahead. The stakes just went through the roof. If someone finds that phone, his life is over. He's back in the dirt, tearing through the leaves. Today's such an unlucky day. He's looking for the glowing screen, for anything that says his secrets are still safe. Then, a pair of shoes appears in his peripheral vision. A familiar voice drops like a lead weight. What? Fujiyama is standing there, holding the phone like a piece of evidence. Kanba, that's yours? Her face is unreadable, but the question is a guillotine. He freezes, his heart hammer drilling into his ribs. Did you look inside? He asks, his voice barely a whisper. Anything on it that'll get you in trouble? Perverted stuff? She teases, holding it just out of reach. Kanba lunges. No way, let me see. They're wrestling like kids again, the height difference making the struggle look absurd. She's giggling, her guard down, while Kanba is just trying to save his soul. The dust settles, but the embarrassment lingers. If I'm with her, even I will get laughed at. Kanba thinks, trailing behind her. She looks back, sensing his mood. You angry? He doesn't answer. He just stares at the back of her head. Definitely not cute. Even the local dogs are picking a fight. Fujiyama sticks her tongue out right back at the barking pup. Kanba looks down at her shoes, at the sheer scale of her. Her feet are big too. She notices him staring. Yes? He snaps his eyes up. I didn't say anything. A baby in a carrier catches her eye. Suddenly, the giant athlete is gone. Fujiyama's eyes go wide, sparkling with a genuine, soft fascination. Kanba is vibrating with panic. He expects her to spike the kid like a volleyball. Against a child that can't even turn its head properly yet. Stop. But she doesn't attack. She leans back, laughing, the sun catching her joy as she looks at the tiny human. The baby reaches for her, and she doesn't shrink away from her own presence. She throws her arms up, owning every inch of her 181 centimeters. Yep, I'm big. The baby laughs back, and something in Kanba's chest finally gives way. He looks at her, really looks at her, and the not cute label he's been trying to force on her just dissolves. Fujiyama, he says, his voice finally steady. You rock. She stretches, her body long and graceful in the evening light. I don't care anymore. I'll let my feelings take over now. The distance he kept between them for years is suddenly the only thing he wants to close. She looks at him, curious. Why so quiet, Kanba? You hungry? He stops. The bridge railing is cold under his hands. Should we go out? The silence is absolute. He's ready for the rejection, for the laugh. But she doesn't even hesitate. She just stands there, tall and sure of herself. Okay, Kanba's world tilts. It's okay. Her eyes are soft and the answer is final. He waited for the punchline, for the laugh, for the earth to open up and swallow him whole. But the giant is just standing there, looming over him with a calm that's absolutely terrifying. You mean you're okay with going out with me? Fujiyama doesn't flinch. She just tucks a strand of hair behind her ear, her expression softening into something almost vulnerable. Yes, I am. The power lines overhead hum with more energy than Kanba's brain can handle right now. He looks down at his bandaged face. The reality's sinking in like a lead weight. He actually did it. He got a girlfriend. The first term is dying, the heat of summer vacation pressing against the windows of the gym. Amidst the sea of identical uniforms, she stands out like a monument. 181 centimeters of volleyball ace, silent and imposing while the principal drones on about responsibility. Kanba is practically vibrating in his seat, his neck hot with the weight of her presence. Behind him, the gossip mongers are already rewriting history, convinced the giant girl was glaring him down yesterday. They see a threat. Kanba sees a girl who just said okay, and his brain is officially short-circuiting. In the girl's locker room, the air is thick with talk of summer plans and boyfriends. While the rest of the team drags Maki-chan toward practice, nobody realizes the ace has already been scouted by the most unlikely guy in school. The curiosity is infectious. The girls are trading rumors like currency. dissecting exactly how far their classmate went with her high school boyfriend. When the detail just to the upper half drops, it's like a tectonic shift in their middle school reality. Practice is a cacophony of squeaking sneakers and thundering spikes. Kanba is stuck on ball boy duty, nearly getting his head taken off by a stray shot. It's a close call, but in this gym, the real danger is just being in the same zip code as his secret. The captain barks an order. Get the handle from the equipment closet. It's a mundane chore, but Kanba's heart is hammering a rhythm against his ribs. They're in different classes, they rarely speak. This dark, dusty room is the only place where their new world can actually exist. He slides the door open and the air just stops. Fujiyama is there, sitting on the mats, the soft light catching the line of her shoulder as she adjusts her uniform. Kanba's lungs seize up. A strangled wah is all his throat can manage as his brain resets for the third time today. He's backing away, tripping over his own heartbeat while she just looks up, a bit of her jersey still bunched in her hands. He stammers out something about a loose net handle, looking anywhere but at her. She points casually toward the high shelf, completely unfazed by the sudden intrusion. The handle is way out of reach, shoved into the rafters. Kanba scrambles for a chair, but Fujiyama just stands up. She doesn't need a stool. She just reaches, her body stretching with an athletic grace that makes Kanba feel smaller than ever. She's acting like nothing happened yesterday, like the world didn't tilt on its axis. He can't take the silence. The doubt is eating him alive. Are we really going out? He whispers, his eyes searching hers for a sign he dreamed the whole thing. She doesn't even look back, her focus on the shelf as she delivers the kill shot. Naturally we are. The space between them is gone. He's so close he can see the sweat on her neck, and the way her eyes are wider than usual. She warns him he's too close, that her sports compress smells, but the scent of menthol is currently the most intoxicating thing Kanba has ever experienced. The cicadas are screaming outside, but in here there's only the sound of his own pulse. His forehead touches her jersey just for a second. It's warm, solid, and terrifyingly real. For the first time, she's not just a giant classmate, she's the girl who belongs to him. Her eyes drift shut, her face heating up in the shadows of the cramped supply space. Outside, the team is still shouting, balls hitting the floor with rhythmic thuds, but the ace is currently losing her composure over a ball boy with a bandaged nose. The moment is perfect until Kanba's instincts kick in. He takes a long, deep sniff of her jersey, and the romantic tension snaps like a dry twig. Her hand is a blur of motion as she delivers a defensive strike to the top of his head. Don't sniff! They're both glowing red now, the cluttered shed feeling smaller than a shoebox. She huffs, turning away to hide the smile she can't quite suppress. Idiot, the sun is high, the school is empty, and summer vacation has finally, officially, begun. Summer vacation has arrived, but the only thing moving in this heat is the sweat dripping off the eaves. The bitter melon vines are practically wilting, while the boys rot in the shade, dreaming of air conditioning and karaoke. One of them groans, looking up at the sky with pure resentment. We can't waste it on club activities. Normally, Kanba would be the first one over the fence, ditching practice before the first serve even lands. But today, he's actually putting in the work, his eyes narrowed as he tracks the ball through the blinding glare. He's pushing himself so hard his lungs are starting to burn, probably trying to prove he belongs in the same orbit as the girl he's actually dating. The rhythm of the gym is broken by the sharp clap of the coach's hands and a heavy thud against the floorboards. Even the ace isn't immune to the summer heat, as Fujiyama catches her toe and takes a spectacular dive. Her teammates crowd around, asking if she's okay, but she just brushes it off with a stoic nod. The coach isn't interested in the drama though. His voice cuts through the concern like a blade. Gather up second years. The lecture is grueling, the coach barking about the seniors retiring and the pressure for the new ace to lead. Fujiyama stands tall, her face flushed and glistening with sweat, absorbing the weight of the expectations with a simple, yes. When they're finally released, the sprint to the faucets is less of a run and more of a desperate migration. The sound of handles turning and the splash of cold water is the only thing that matters. Kanba and Fujiyama find themselves side by side, the rest of the world blurring into the background of falling water. She leans down, letting the stream hit her neck, her breathing heavy and rhythmic as the heat slowly leaves her skin. It's an accidental moment of intimacy in the middle of a public school courtyard. Kanba looks up, drenched and gasping, and she lets out a small, relieved sigh. Phew, so cold. This is the moment. While the team is distracted, Kanba fumbles with a piece of paper, his heart hammering against his ribs. He presses it toward her, his voice a frantic whisper as he warns her that they're being watched. He doesn't even look her in the eye as he delivers the payload, my cell phone number. She takes it, her expression unreadable as she hides it away, promising to give him hers later. Kanba's imagination is already running wild, picturing late-night texts and the kind of photos a hormone-driven teenage boy dreams about. He's built this whole digital fantasy in his head, only to have it come crashing down when the truth hits. Fujiyama doesn't even have a cell phone. She's never asked for one, and the sound of his dream shattering is louder than the summer cicadas. She looks at him, completely sincere, and offers the one thing she actually possesses. Will my home phone number do? The thought of calling her landline and having to speak to her father makes Kanba's blood run cold. His internal reaction is immediate and visceral. Of course not. He turns away, his face a mask of comedic despair as he realizes his high-tech romance just got downgraded to a rotary phone reality. Night falls over the quiet apartments, and the heat finally starts to settle. Kanba slips into his room, ignoring his family's calls for dinner, and collapses onto his bed. In the dark, the only light comes from his phone screen. He's staring at a photo of her, one he probably shouldn't have. Looking at the girl who is technically his girlfriend, but feels a million miles away without a way to text her. His room is a disaster area of discarded clothes and schoolwork, a perfect reflection of his scattered brain. He's replaying the scene at the faucets over and over, cringing at his own reaction to her home phone offer. If she just had a phone, he could fix this. He could type out the words that are currently stuck in his throat and tell her he's sorry for being an idiot. Over at the Fujiyama household, the mood is much brighter. While her father carves up a chilled watermelon, her parents decide it's finally time for her to join the 21st century. Her mom mentions it's for safety, and her dad just smiles, promising to buy her one. The stoic ace disappears, replaced by a girl so happy she starts a literal victory dance in the middle of the kitchen. She throws her hands up with a glowing smile. Yay. The next morning, the hallway becomes a danger zone. Fujiyama is so electrified by her news that she completely forgets about the secret part of their secret relationship. She charges toward Kanba like a middle blocker going for a kill, her excitement practically radiating off her. Kanba's eyes go wide as he sees her coming, his voice a panicked hiss as he tries to maintain cover. Don't be so obvious in front of them. She doesn't say a word, but her smile is blinding. She delivers a playful, high-velocity kick to his rear that sends him stumbling, leaving the other boys wondering if she's finally lost her mind from the heat. In the chaos, she drops a folded piece of paper onto his desk. Kanba opens it with trembling hands, reading the messy, enthusiastic handwriting. My parents will buy me a cell phone. They find a quiet corner of the school to hide away, crouching down like they're planning a heist. Fujiyama is beaming, her face glowing with a mix of pride and bashfulness as she reaches into her bag. Kanba is leaning in close, his heart racing as he asks the million-yen question. Is it a smartphone? She just shakes her head, her smile widening as she prepares for the big reveal. No, a smaller and cuter one. She opens her hand, and the reality of her cell phone hits Kanba like a cold bucket of water. It's not a sleek piece of tech, it's a tiny plastic pebble sitting in the center of her palm. It looks like a toy, something meant for a grade schooler, making the massive ace of the volleyball team look even more absurdly tall by comparison. Kanba can only stare at the miniature device and utter the obvious. So tiny. The dream of late-night texting dies on the spot. It's a safety cell phone. A glorified walkie-talkie that can only call or mail her parents. No internet, no apps, and definitely no secret photos. Fujiyama seems to realize the disappointment on his face, her expression shifting to one of quiet resignation, but Kanba's curiosity gets the better of him. He spots a small ring attached to a string at the bottom of the device, and before she can stop him, he gives it a tug. The silence of the hallway is absolutely obliterated. The safety feature is actually a high-decibel emergency siren, and it starts screaming with enough force to wake the dead. Fujiyama panics, her eyes going wide as she yells for him not to break it, while Kanba stands there frozen, the tiny device wailing in his hands. The beep-beep echoes through the school, signaling to everyone exactly where the secret couple is hiding. So much for a quiet summer. The summer sun is already punishingly bright, and Fujiyama is just trying to make it across the bridge with her dignity intact. But her friends are predators who smell a secret. Maiko lunges with the speed of a volleyball setter, hands hooking under the hem of that plaid skirt. Before Fujiyama can even react, her skirt is halfway to her waist as Maiko yells, "Gotcha!" Instead of a scandal, they find a solid wall of navy blue. Fujiyama isn't just prepared for gym class, she's armored. While Takagi looks on with her usual nothing phases me vibe, Fujiyama just tugs her skirt back down with a shrug. She's already in her one-piece swimsuit, standing tall and utterly unbothered. "I'm invincible," she says, like wearing a second skin of spandex is the ultimate social cheat code. The invincible strategy hits a snag when they see the sign, "Pool is closed." Rumors of a midnight goldfish heist have the teachers in a frenzy, leaving the class to bake in the humidity. For any other student, it's a drag. For Fujiyama and Kanba, it's a sudden, wide-open hole in the afternoon schedule. Fujiyama is practically vibrating. She's already thinking about that tiny pebble-shaped phone tucked in her bag. She wants to mail her boyfriend, a word that still feels like it shouldn't fit her life. Her friends aren't blind, they see the hum in her step and the way her eyes wander toward the windows. Finding a boyfriend isn't supposed to be as easy as a haircut, but Fujiyama is clearly cutting class in her mind already. A small piece of paper spirals through the air like a dying moth, landing right at Fujiyama's feet. She looks up, her neck craning toward the upper floors where Kanba is lurking. The note is blunt, scrawled in a hurry. "Look up," no heart, no flowery prose, just a command for a secret rendezvous. She tucks it away, her heart hammering against that hidden swimsuit. They find each other across the distance of a balcony railing. Kanba leans out, his small frame almost lost against the school's massive facade, while Fujiyama watches from below. It's a quick, silent confirmation, a nod, a shared look, and a plan formed in the space between heartbeats. The shrine. Now. The shrine is a pocket of deep green silence, hidden away from the prying eyes of the volleyball team and the gossip-hungry halls of the school. It's a steep climb through the trees, the kind of place where the air feels 10 degrees cooler and the rest of the world feels like a distant memory. The stone steps are worn smooth by years of prayers, and Fujiyama takes them one by one, her tall frame casting a long shadow in the filtered light. A stray cat watches her pass, the only witness to the ace of the volleyball team sneaking off to meet a boy. He's waiting for her at the top, perched on a stone ledge like he belongs there. Kanba tries to look cool, ignoring the fact that his heart is trying to leap out of his chest at the sight of her. He raises a hand, his voice cracking just a fraction under the weight of the silence. "Yo." They settle onto the wooden porch of the sacred grounds, the safety phone disaster still fresh enough to sting. Kanba tries to justify the location with a bit of borrowed wisdom. To hide a tree, use a forest. It's an idiom about blending in, but Fujiyama's height makes blending in a tall order. She snaps back, "Who are you calling a giant?" But the bite is gone, replaced by the warmth of just being near him. The heat makes everything heavy. Fujiyama stretches out on the wood, the shade feeling like a blessing. Kanba watches the rise and fall of her breath, his eyes snagging on a discarded cicada shell nearby. It's a mindless impulse, a boyish prank to break the tension. He leans over, placing the hollow, crunchy shell right on her shirt. He expects a jump. He doesn't expect a disaster. Fujiyama doesn't just jump, she detonates. In a blind panic at the touch of the bug, she flails, her uniform shirt flying open as she scrambles for distance. In the harsh sunlight hitting the temple veranda, the secret armor is laid bare. The sleek, dark swimsuit clings to her athletic frame, a sudden and overwhelming display of skin and spandex that leaves Kanba's brain completely short-circuited. The screaming stops, replaced by a silence so heavy it feels like it could crush the stones. Fujiyama sits there, her hands frozen as she realizes she's just given Kanba the front-row seat she's been trying to avoid. Her face isn't just red, it's a deep, vibrating crimson that matches the heat of the afternoon. Kanba is staring at the cicada shell like it's a murder weapon while his face burns. Fujiyama tries to claw back some dignity, reminding him that it's just a swimsuit, for God's sake. But the logic doesn't matter when you're both 14 and the air between you is currently on fire. She's bright red, he's hyperventilating, and the invincible armor has definitely failed its first real test. Kanba turns to the shrine, desperately praying for his heart to stop trying to exit through his throat. He offers a frantic thank you to whatever deity is listening, while Fujiyama sits on the steps behind him, her head buried in her hands. The deep tolling of the sanctuary bell echoes through the trees, a heavy, rhythmic sound that marks the end of their first secret date and the beginning of a whole new level of awkward. The summer heat isn't just a temperature, it's a weight that pins you to the pavement while the cicadas scream their lungs out. Inside the empty classrooms of San Remi Middle School, the air is dead, but outside, the volleyball team is still grinding through their rhythm of sweat and shouting. In the music room, the brass band struggles against the humidity, their notes heavy and humid. But through the window, there she is, Fujiyama Makio, a blur of motion and focus that makes everything else in the world look like it's moving in slow motion. She isn't just running, she's dominating the track, every stride a testament to the growth spurt that's turned her into the school's undisputed ace. The sweat beads on her skin as she pushes through the afternoon, leaving everyone else in the dust of her wake. Practice ends, but the teasing is just beginning. Takagi leans in with a smirk, asking if she's heading to the fireworks with her boyfriend. Fujiyama tries to stay stoic, ignoring the whispers about shaved ice and tagalongs, until she can finally break away. A quick wave, a sharp bye-bye, and she's off, disappearing into the reflection of the road mirrors as she heads toward their secret meeting spot. The shrine is a sanctuary of cool shadows and ancient stone. Kanba is already there, looking like he's trying to merge with the scenery until Fujiyama appears. "Did you wait long?" she asks, her voice small against the massive torii gate. He offers a quick no as he climbs the steps, his pulse already racing faster than the walk requires. One look is all it takes for the quiet to break. Fujiyama's eyes light up with a sudden mischievous challenge before she bolts. "Wait!" Kanba shouts, but she's already a flight of stairs ahead of him. It's a dead sprint up the stone steps, a burst of pure, uncoordinated teenage energy that leaves the heavy air behind. Kanba's lungs are beginning to burn, his vision narrowing to the plaid of her skirt just out of reach. He's pushing, giving it everything, but Fujiyama is a machine, her legs driving her upward with a grace that makes his own scramble feel like a desperate crawl. She's pulling away, her athletic build silhouetted against the bright sky at the top of the stairs. Kanba is wheezing now, every ha a plea for oxygen as he realizes just how outclassed he is by his own girlfriend. She clears the final step like she's just finished a light warm-up, standing tall under the sanctuary gate. Below her, Kanba finally hits the summit and immediately loses the battle with gravity. He collapses onto the stone, a messy heap of sweat and defeat, gasping out a pathetic AWW as the world spins. Fujiyama leans over him, her face glowing with the kind of pure, unadulterated joy you only get from winning. "I won," she cheers, her grin wide and teasing as she looks down at the boy currently trying to remember how to breathe. He grumbles about it not being a race, but her laughter is a sore loser taunt that he can't even fight back against. They settle onto the stone, the heat finally starting to dissipate as they lay back against the cool steps. The towering trees of the shrine arch over them, a green canopy that muffles the entire outside world. For a moment, the only thing that exists is the rhythmic thrum of their hearts slowing down in unison. The world goes still. "The chirping stopped," Fujiyama whispers, her eyes fixed on the shifting leaves above. Kanba looks over at her, the sudden quiet making every breath feel intimate. "It's really quiet," he agrees, the silence between them no longer awkward, but a shared space where they don't have to pretend to be anything but themselves. The conversation drifts toward the upcoming fireworks, the reality of their secret relationship clashing with their public lives. She's promised to go with Maiko. He'll likely be stuck with the guys. It's the classic middle school dilemma, but Kanba floats the idea of meeting up anyway, his voice cautious as he tests the waters of a real date. They try to settle on a spot, but every obvious place will be a mosh pit of classmates and parents. Kanba's mind races through the logistics, wishing she had a functional cell phone instead of that plastic toy her parents gave her. He needs a reference point, something impossible to miss in a sea of thousands. Then, a light bulb flickers on in his head. Kanba looks her right in the eye, fully committed to his own brilliance. "I can find you in any crowd," he says, leaning in for what should be a sweet moment. Then the punchline lands, "Since you're huge, you're the meeting place." The silence that follows isn't romantic, it's the hiss of a fuse hitting the powder. The huge comment hits Fujiyama like a slap, and her reaction is instantaneous and physical. She tackles him into the stone, her superior weight and volleyball-honed reflexes pinning him down as he wheezes out a desperate "cough my lungs." She hovers over him, a mix of indignation and worry, asking, "You okay?" while he tries to reboot his internal organs. She doesn't wait for him to recover, grabbing her bag with a blush that's half anger, half embarrassment. As she bolts back down the stairs, Kanba is left to grab his things and scramble after her. "Wait up!" he yells, his lungs still protesting as he chases the one who is simultaneously his biggest challenge and his favorite landmark. The sky is thick with clouds, but Kanba's mind is already miles away, counting down the hours until the weekend fireworks. He's staring into the distance, praying for clear weather, until a megaphone blast shatters his daydream and reminds him he's currently trapped in school-mandated humidity. The water is freezing, the boys are shivering, and the regular teacher is out sick. Enter the vice principal, a force of nature in oversized shades, who shuts down the complaining with a single deafening command. "Boys, shut up." Amidst the splashing, the world narrows down to a single line of sight. Kanba looks up, and there she is, Fujiyama, looking taller and more imposing than ever in her school swimsuit. She catches him looking. The realization hits him like a physical blow. Shit, our eyes met. The VP isn't letting anyone slack off, barking counts like a drill sergeant while Fujiyama tries to stay focused on her stretches. Kanba can barely keep his rhythm, his brain short-circuiting every time he catches a glimpse of her across the pool deck. The class is a mess of hormones and side eyes. While the other girls compare sizes and popularity, Fujiyama is just trying to exist without being a landmark. Completely unaware that Kanba is currently navigating a mental minefield just looking at her. The conversation around him has devolved into a debate about anatomical uniqueness, but Kanba's focus is singular. For the second time today, their gazes lock, and the absolute absurdity of their secret relationship feels heavier than the water in the pool. The temperature drops in the outdoor showers, sending a chorus of shrieks through the air. Takagi is in her element, leaning into the chaos with a grin that promises trouble. It's a frenzy of cold water and tactile jokes. Takagi doesn't hesitate to poke fun at her classmates' growth, turning the shivering locker room into a theater of adolescent embarrassment. On the sidelines, the atmosphere is actually civil. Iota-san and the others sit out, discussing the perils of chlorine on dyed hair, until the vice principal looms over them like a shadow. The VP checks in with a mix of genuine concern and blunt humor that leaves the girls blinking. Meanwhile, Kanba is being dragged into a race he didn't ask for, his competitive spirit currently at 0%. Fujiyama is just trying to blend into the concrete when the VP's attention snaps toward her. The question is loud, public, and impossible to ignore. "Fujiyama-san, stand up for a bit?" She rises, unfolding like a skyscraper in a neighborhood of bungalows. The VP can't help but marvel, exclaiming, "Oh my, you're big," while the rest of the class watches in a stunned, silent reverence. Fujiyama rubs her neck, offering a bashful smile. "I take after my parents," she admits, while Kanba stares from the water, his heart doing backflips at the sight of her being so effortlessly charming. The vice principal doubles down on the joke, claiming her own daughter takes after her, but only in width. It's a total collapse of authority as she rolls on the ground laughing, taking the whole class with her. Even Fujiyama lets out a genuine, beaming laugh that makes Kanba's lungs feel tighter than the pool water ever did. Class is over. The humidity has cleared, and the lockers are slamming shut. Kanba lingers, waiting for the one person who makes the school day worth the sweat. He spots her in the hallway, hair still damp, and he freezes. He's staring, totally, shamelessly staring. She catches him again, her face going bright red as she snaps a towel at his head. "Stop ogling," she shouts, chasing him down the hall with a grin that proves some landmarks are definitely worth the view. The festival hasn't even started, and Fujiyama is already losing the battle against her own height. Her mom is trying, really trying, but every time Fujiyama moves an inch, the floral fabric hitches up like it's terrified of her ankles. She stands there with her arms raised, a human skyscraper in a house built for bungalows. Her mother finally drops the fabric with a defeated sigh. "It's no use. When you raise your arms, the hem gets too short." At the gate, Maiko is the picture of festival perfection in her floral yukata and twin bun hairstyle. Then Fujiyama steps out, hoodie, shorts, and a look that says her pride is currently in the laundry. Her father is already clicking away with his camera, oblivious to the fact that his daughter feels like a giant sore thumb in a world of garden gnomes. She mutters a greeting, her shoulders slumped, burdened by her own comfort. She tries to act like she doesn't care, eyes narrowed as she insists these clothes are better for walking anyway. Then comes the peace offering, a 2,000 yen allowance. The grumpiness vanishes instantly as they merge into the one-way stream of people being funneled toward the smell of fried dough and charcoal. The festival is a pulsing sea of lanterns and humanity, a glowing maze where the only way to navigate is to follow the rhythmic thrum of the crowd. Maiko is already in peak form, navigating the crush of people and pointing out the local baseball club boys with their matching buzz cuts. She's laughing, oblivious to the sensory overload, while pointing out a group of guys, and they're all eating takoyaki. Bump. A collision of white t-shirts and sudden panic. Kanba is standing there, looking like he just saw a ghost, or at least the one girl he was hoping to run into and avoid simultaneously. Maiko stops mid-stride, her eyes narrowing as she scans his face. "MH, you're from class 2. Then he sees her. She's standing by the stalls, hands buried in her pockets, looking like a girl who just wanted to blend in but realized she's the only landmark in the entire festival. Kanba stammers through an excuse about losing a group of 10 guys, his face flushing under the festival lights. Maiko isn't buying the lonely traveler act, but she's on a mission to find Takagi, dragging a reluctant Fujiyama along through the press of bodies. Got lost, huh? Takagi is spotted, and the group is whole for exactly 5 seconds before Maiko decides she's hungry for caramel candy and disappears into the throng. She leaves them stranded with a wave and a sharp command. "Maki-chan, so wait here." The air suddenly feels 5 degrees hotter. They're standing in the shadow of a tent, the silence between them louder than the taiko drums in the distance. Kanba watches the spot where Maiko vanished, his heart hammering against his ribs. She isn't coming back. They start to drift through the stalls, 2 magnets trying to pretend they aren't pulling toward each other. Fujiyama nibbles on her candy, the glow of the lanterns catching the curve of her cheek. Kanba finally breaks the tension, asking if she's actually planning to buy anything with that allowance. The goldfish scooping tank is a swirling mess of orange and black, a childhood classic that feels entirely different tonight. As she leans over the water, the realization hits Kanba like a physical blow, grounding the noise and the crowds into a single, terrifying thought. Somehow it feels like a date. She fails miserably on the first try, the paper scoop disintegrating the moment it touches the surface. Kanba can't help it. He lets out a laugh that earns him a sharp "you suck" from across the tank. Suddenly the boss appears, a massive, bug-eyed fish that looks like it eats paper scoops for breakfast. She's done playing around. She pulls her hair back, teeth clenching a scrunchie as she prepares for war. Kanba freezes, the image of her focus and the exposed nape of her neck hitting harder than any volleyball spike. My hair gets in the way. She lowers herself into a crouch, a statue of pure concentration. The water ripples, the fish circle, and for a second, the entire festival disappears into the reflection in the tank. Kanba slides in closer, his voice low as he talks her through the physics of the paper scoop. He's close enough to smell the summer on her skin as he explains how to use the smooth side to beat the water pressure. "I'll teach you a trick." Slowly, carefully. The paper holds. The fish swims over the trap. She flicks her wrist, a perfect calculated motion, and there it is, splashing in the bowl. The look on her face is pure, unadulterated triumph. Yep, like that. She throws her arms up, a victory cry of yay that fills the air, until her elbow meets something solid. Bump. A small child, a spilled drink, and a sudden sharp cry of pain. The romantic bubble doesn't just pop. It explodes into a full-blown emergency. The victory cry turns into a cold sweat. Fujiyama is hunched over, practically shrinking into herself as she tries to comfort the kid she just bulldozed. It's the nightmare scenario. Her size, which she's finally starting to accept, just became a wrecking ball at a festival for toddlers. The kid stops crying long enough to accept a bribe of mountain-high shaved ice, but the damage is done. Fujiyama tries to pay Kanba back, her hand shaking as she holds out the coins, but he's staring at her back. Something's wrong. More importantly, the back of your hoodie, Fujiyama. A massive, sticky syrup Rorschach test is currently colonizing the back of her borrowed hoodie. A strangled arg escapes her as the vendor points her toward a water supply behind the booths. The festival magic is currently drowning in blue raspberry goo. She has to shed the layer. Suddenly the hoodie is off, and Fujiyama is standing there in just a black tank top, shoulders broad and skin pale in the dim light behind the stalls. Kanba's lungs suddenly stop working. He tries to focus on the laundry, but his brain is short-circuiting. She mutters, "I can't really see well in this darkness." The first explosion of the fireworks hits the sky, painting the muscles of her back in strobing colors. She looks like a statue, powerful and delicate all at once, while Kanba stands 3 steps behind her, completely paralyzed by the view. This wasn't part of the plan, but he can't look away. The spell snaps with a wet thud. Fujiyama is back in her hoodie, clutching the plastic bag of fish she won. The vendor leans out with a grin that says he's seen 1,000 couples tonight, but none quite like this. He holds out the bag and delivers the killing blow. "Here's your big catch." The old man is enjoying this way too much. He points at the bag, where a massive goldfish swims next to a tiny one. Looks like the big one is the girlfriend, and the small one the boyfriend. Kanba's face is a flat line of pure mortification, while Fujiyama just stares at the fish, her brain processing the roast in real time. Instead of being offended, Fujiyama starts to smirk. She actually thinks it's funny. Kanba points a finger, accusing her of enjoying his pain, but the bickering dies out as they hit the main path. A wall of humanity blocks their exit. Doesn't look like we can get any further through this crowd. They're boxed in, the heat of the crowd is pressing them together, and Kanba's hand is inches away from hers, hovering in that dangerous electric space. He's deciding whether to take the leap when a voice cuts through the static. It's Maiko, looking for Fujiyama. The secret date just hit a massive complication. Takagi and the others swarm them. The excuse is simple. The crowd is too crazy. Takagi admits she only found them because she saw someone huge from afar. Fujiyama takes the hit with a quiet "Chich." They're back with the group, and the private moment is supposed to be over. But the fireworks are only just beginning. The sky turns white and gold. Fujiyama's face is tilted up, eyes wide and reflecting every spark. She's gorgeous, and for a second the crowd disappears. Then the surge hits. A tidal wave of people pushing for a better view, throwing everyone into chaos. Kanba is knocked sideways, reaching out blindly through the noise. His hand brushes skin. In the dark, amidst the sweating bodies, he finds her. "I'm touching." He doesn't pull away this time. His heart is hammering against his ribs as his fingers brush against hers. It's messy, it's accidental, and it's the most terrifying thing he's ever done. He looks at her, wondering if she can feel the lightning bolt between them. The fireworks are deafening now, but they're just background noise. Fujiyama's face is flushed a deep red, her eyes fixed on the sky with a desperate intensity. Kanba is just as bad, his face burning. In the middle of the crowd, with everyone shouting "Yay" at the explosions, they are trapped in a silence that feels like a confession. Everyone is looking at the sky. 10,000 people staring up, and yet all that carries weight is the 2 inches of air between their palms. Kanba's fingers twitch. Fujiyama's hand is steady, waiting. The bag with the goldfish swings between them, a witness to the slowest, most agonizing reach in history. He stops overthinking. Kanba slides his hand into hers, his fingers finding the gaps between hers and locking in. It's a firm, sweaty, perfect fit. The thump-thump in his chest is louder than the fireworks now. He's not letting go. In this sea of people, he finally found his anchor. They stand there, locked together while the world celebrates around them. It's the first time they've really connected in public. No secret agreements, no height jokes, just 2 hands that don't want to be anywhere else. The grip is tight, a silent promise made under the cover of the darkness and the smoke. Fujiyama looks up, and for once she doesn't look like the giant ace of the volleyball team. She just looks like a girl in love, glowing in the fading light of the last few shells. Kanba looks at her and feels a sudden, sharp clarity. The height difference, the social optics, the classmates, it's all just static. The festival ends in a shower of sparks and smoke. 2 fish in a bag, swimming in the same direction. 2 kids in a crowd, finally walking in step. The big one and the small one, holding on for dear life. The morning after always feels a little heavier when your world shifted the night before. Fujiyama is out cold, dead to the world, still wrapped in the gravity of everything that happened under those fireworks. 8 o'clock. The uniform is waiting. The child safety phone is charging, and the room is still. It's that rare moment of peace before the noise of the day catches up. Downstairs, the cicadas are already screaming. Her dad's leaning back, wondering how anyone could sleep through that racket, especially with volleyball practice looming. He just sighs and asks, "What should we have for lunch?" A slow stir. Sunlight filters through the blinds as she finally begins to surface. It's a lazy, heavy-limbed struggle against the sheets until her eyes finally track the clock. She reaches out, joints popping, her tall frame taking up the whole bed before she finally commits to standing up. A mumbled acknowledgement to the day, and a groan of ouch as she bumps into the morning reality. Rubbing the sleep from her eyes, she wanders down the hall, passing the cat who's busy having a morning yawn of its own. She offers a tired morning. Contentment is a bowl of cold suman and her dad's gentle teasing. He's already finished, leaving her to her thoughts while she blows on noodles that are already chilled. He has to remind her, "Maki, suman are served cold." The ritual kicks into gear. Scrub the teeth, splash the face, and try to manage that 181-centimeter frame in a space built for smaller people. Every movement is a practice dance around the furniture. Tie straightened, socks pulled high. She looks in the mirror and sees the ace of the volleyball team again, but there's a softness in her expression that wasn't there 48 hours ago. She stops at the entrance. The goldfish bowl on the shelf is a quiet reminder that last night actually happened. Two little fish swimming in circles. Unaware they're the living proof of her first real date. The memory hits her like a physical wave. The searing glow of the fireworks, the smell of gunpowder, and the sudden, terrifying clarity of Kanba's fingers interlocking with hers. She hides her face in her hands, her heart catching up to the speed of the sparks. The walk to school is a return to form. The dog barks, the bus stop is crowded, and her friends are already waiting to reel her back into their world. Oh, it's Maki. Everyone's buzzing about the fireworks, but for Fujiyama, the conversation is a minefield. They're teasing each other about looking at boys instead of the display, totally unaware that the biggest romance of the night happened right under their noses. "Oh right, I saw you from afar, Maki." Then the question drops like a lead weight. "Maki, you had a little brother?" They saw a boy with short hair walking with her. The room feels 10 degrees hotter as they lean in, grinning. "Maybe your boyfriend." They're debating if the boy they saw was actually just a short-haired girl, while the real boy in question is just a few feet away, changing his shoes. Kanba is trying to look casual, but his heart is clearly doing 90 in a 30 zone as he waits for a chance to speak. He leans in, whispering about the goldfish, trying to find a common thread from their night. But then he mentions seeing a tall guy, and the wires in Fujiyama's brain just start short-circuiting. Her gaze locks onto him, eyes wide and soul leaving her body. Whew. Pure, unadulterated panic. She's not the ace of the volleyball team anymore. She's a girl who's reached her embarrassment limit. A single thunderous stomp echoes through the lockers, and before Kanba can even blink, she's a blur of plaid and panic sprinting down the hall. The sun isn't even up, but the world is already vibrating with middle school chaos. It's early, it's humid, and half the class is currently running on 3 hours of sleep and pure adrenaline. While the girls are debating the structural integrity of bed hair, Kanba is leaning into a total mental blackout. He's standing there, bag slung low, his brain stuck in a loading screen as the heat starts to simmer. It sure is hot, even though the sun isn't up yet. Before anyone can even dream of a vacation, Nurse Kurashiki arrives to crush the mood with medical-grade realism. She's not here for the fun of training camp. She's here to prevent a projectile vomiting epidemic on the bus. She looms over the microphone, her eyes sharp and unforgiving. "If you don't want a weird nickname like Barfer, take the medicine." The boarding process is a tactical scramble. The boys are already lamenting the room assignments, but Kanba spots the ultimate prize, the row of backseats. It's the highest ground, the sanctuary of the cool kids and the truly exhausted. He throws a hand up, eyes wide with victory. Yay, backseats. Reality hits as soon as the bags are loaded. There is no personal space, only a sea of polyester and canvas. The boys are packed in like sardines, squeezed between oversized duffels and their own crushed expectations. One look at the cramped conditions and the vibe drops instantly. We aren't treated as humans again. And then, there's Fujiyama. Even in the tightest quarters, she commands the space, standing tall in the aisle while everyone else hunches over. She looks less like a student and more like a pillar of the team, her eyes scanning the bus with a quiet, observant intensity that makes everything else feel small. The engine roars to life, and the school shrinks in the rearview mirror. Inside, the bus is a hum of low-level gossip and the rhythmic swaying of passengers settling into the long haul. It's the calm before the storm, or the training camp. Fujiyama gazes out at the passing landscape, her mind miles away until Takagi leans in with a snack-based ambush. It's a bag of crispy plums, the traditional remedy for anything and everything. Fujiyama takes it with a small, polite nod, looking down at the tiny package as if it holds the secrets of the universe. Want a crispy plum? The piece is short-lived. The coach stands up, pointing at the overhead monitor with the fervor of a general. He's not watching a movie. He's playing back a middle school match to analyze every failure. While the boys try to catch some sleep, the screen flickers with the harsh reality of their next training match. Watch and learn from it. Finally, the rest stop. It's a 15-minute window of freedom, but the rules are absolute. The clock is ticking the moment those doors swing open. The coach delivers the ultimatum with a flat, terrifying stare. If you aren't back in time, the bus leaves without you. Come late and you'll be left behind. The fresh air is a godsend. Fujiyama steps out onto the pavement and takes a deep, lung-filling breath, stretching her arms wide until the tension in her shoulders finally snaps. In that brief moment, the pressure of the team and the secret with Kanba fades into the background. She stretches high, her shirt riding up just a fraction as she reaches for the sky. It's a moment of pure physical relief until she hears a familiar, pained groan. One of the guys has officially succumbed to the Barfer prophecy, looking absolutely green as he leans against the railing. He got a terrible car sickness. Fujiyama doesn't hesitate. She marches straight over to Kanba, her eyes landing on him with a directness that usually makes him short-circuit. She's on a mission of mercy, asking about the one thing she knows might help. "Do you have some dried plums?" Kanba's face goes blank, while attempting to process the sudden proximity. Nope. She hands over the ancient remedy, and the effect is almost instant. The sick boy looks up, the color slowly returning to his face as the plum works its 4,000-year-old magic. Fujiyama watches with a satisfied nod, but the victory is cut short by a sound that makes their hearts drop. The bus engine is idling, the doors are shutting, and they are still on the sidewalk. Pure, unadulterated panic. The bus starts to pull away, a giant white wall of exclusion. Fujiyama's eyes go wide, her cool composure shattering into a million pieces. She screams at the top of her lungs, pointing at the retreating vehicle as her legs start to move. "Hurry up, Kanba, the bus is leaving." They're sprinting, lungs burning, gravel flying, shoes slapping against the asphalt in a frantic rhythm. Fujiyama is a blur of movement, leading the charge with the speed of an ace athlete, while Kanba trails behind, pouring every ounce of energy into his legs just to keep her in sight. It's the most intense date they've never asked for. Their faces are locked in a mix of terror and determination. The bus is right there, just a few yards and a whole lot of luck away. Day one of training camp hasn't even officially started and they're already fighting for their lives. If they make this, it's going to be a long 4 days.